Never. Brother Lawrence, layman. 1. Brother Lawrence never wrote a book, never preached a sermon, and never traveled as a missionary. Most of his time was spent in a kitchen washing dishes. How could this humble, ordinary man influence so many people? The answer is that Brother Lawrence learned the secret of contentment and happiness. He learned to practice the presence of God at every moment and in every place. 2. Nicholas Herman was born in eastern France in the year 1614. His family was poor and he did not receive a good education. During his years in the army, Nicholas had an experience that brought him closer to God. It was winter and the trees had no leaves. Nicholas was looking at a tree and thinking that it would soon be green and full of life. The tree was waiting for a new season. Nicholas' life was like the tree. He, too, seemed to be dead and waiting. At the right season he would find new life and be filled with God's love. There was a life with God that was waiting for him. Nicholas was ready to serve God. He left the army, joined a monastery in Paris, and took the name Brother Lawrence. 3. Because he did not have enough education to become a monk, Brother Lawrence was assigned to work in the kitchen. Even though his job was to wash dishes, he devoted himself to the life of the monastery. He spent a lot of time praying and keeping the rules of the monastery. At first he found this very hard to do. His sins continued to come into his mind and make him very sad. They kept him from the love of God. 4. One day Brother Lawrence had a special experience from God. God clearly told him that his sins were forgiven. He understood that forgiveness is a gift from God. Forgiveness does not depend on how much time one spends in prayer or how many days one fasts. Brother Lawrence now had peace and joy in his heart. Brother Lawrence realized that men create rules and methods for finding God's love and forgiveness. Sometimes these rules trouble men more than help them find peace. God freely offers peace and forgiveness through grace. From then on, Brother Lawrence simply walked before God in faith with humility and with love. He felt God's love, peace and forgiveness all day long. He felt God's peace in every situation, whether washing dishes or praying in the chapel. Everything he did with God. No work was too small or insignificant. It all belonged to God, and Brother Lawrence did it all with God's love and for God's glory. He said, "I began to live as if there were no one except God and me in the world." 5. Brother Lawrence was a dishwasher, and the monks noticed that he always showed peace and joy in his life. They began to come to him for guidance and spiritual talks. He shared the experience of God's constant love. Many people were blessed by his amazing attitude and wanted to learn his secret of contentment, the practice of the presence of God. 6. Brother Lawrence spent the rest of his life working in the monastery. At the age of 80 he died peacefully and with joy. After his death people remembered their conversations with Brother Lawrence. Some of these memories and 15 of his letters were gathered and published. Today this small book continues to teach people the secret of a life devoted to God. The name of the book is The Practice of the Presence of God. This is what Brother Lawrence wrote. So think of God all the time, during the day, at night, in your daily work, even in your leisure time activities. He is always nearby. Don't ignore him. If you had a friend nearby, you would not ignore him when he came to visit. Why then would you neglect God? In short, do not forget him. Think of him often. Adore him continually. Live and die with him. As a Christian, this is our job and calling. This is what we are here for. It is glorious.